great to be here at EBIF, of course, and I think it's even greater the fact that we have Ericsson Business Innovation Forum here in Japan this year. I come often to Tokyo, and I love Tokyo, and I hope you will get a chance to experience this wonderful city as well. I will talk about change in cities and actually how our use of smartphones is changing how cities work and how we live in cities. And I will basically be presenting this report for you here, Smartphone Change Cities. I think you have it in your handouts. It will be released this afternoon, so you have it several hours before it's actually press released. So, smartphones changing cities. What would be better than... Oops, I lost the screen here. Let's see. I'll take a question while we wait for the screen to come back anyway here. So, there we go, yes. I would like to ask all of you here, I would see a raise of hands. How many here have smartphones? A smartphone? How many here has a smartphone? What a stupid question this guy is asking. Yeah. How many here have a tablet or an iPad, or whatever you call that? Are we ever going to do something serious in this work, in this session? I wonder. You're all raising your hands, right? Now, of course, then the big question here becomes, you know, yes, there we are, you know, this has been a transformation in its own right? I mean, life is different now, but what is the next big thing? Those of you who already know what the next big thing is, can you raise your hand? Can you raise your hand? Okay, no, so this question wasn't as stupid as the other ones, huh? I don't see any hands. Okay. The interaction between the body and the network. That's a good one. The interaction between the body and the network is going to be the next thing. Any other idea? What's going to be the next thing? The Internet of Everything. The Internet of Everything. Yeah? So, anyway, I think I have another idea of what the next big thing is going to be, and I think this one is going to be really, really big. Now, this is based on our research, of course, but actually, we all have smartphones. But now, what is happening is that we see an extreme app demand. And then I'm talking about services not in the traditional ICT sector. So when in our research, when we asked about these things, we realized across all sectors of society, people are saying that within just 3 years, the number of services will go through the roof, and we will have 5 times as many, as high availability of services in all sectors of society. This is really where society is starting to change. Having a smartphone is fine, but now when we all have this, it's mass market throughout most of the regions in the world, and throughout most of the countries in the world. It's a mass market thing. Now people are starting to use this in totally new situations. That is going to be the next big thing. So, how on earth is that going to happen? How will that happen? Well, you know, actually it's pretty simple. I already said, you know, if we have a smartphone, of course we change behavior. So, I mean, the traditional things like looking at a social network post, or doing instant messaging, or browsing the internet and so on. If you have a smartphone, you do that much more often than if you have a feature phone or some other kind of phone. Obviously. This changes how we are using the internet, obviously. But the interesting thing here is that now we're taking this experience of using the internet that we can do always with a smartphone and applying it across all industries. So, for example, I suppose a lot of you came here by airplane, right? Maybe not our Japanese friends here, but most of us. Somebody came by boat, by the way? No, we all came on the airplane. I'm sure that some of you, when you were going to board that airplane, you had a boarding card on your phone. You got an SMS and there was a link and there was a boarding card on your phone. Maybe not this time, but I'm sure some of you have experienced this. So you just take this boarding card on your phone and you can pass it through some kind of sensor, and it goes beep, and you can board the plane, you can get it through the gates and so on. Well, when people experience that, they say, well, you know, boarding card, that's just a ticket. So if I can do that on a plane, why can't I should be able to do that on a train? I mean, why do I need, when I go to the train station, need to find this ticket machine? I should just have a ticket on my smartphone and I can just get onto the train, right? Or if I can do it on a train, why couldn't I do it on a bus? You know, and thinking about tickets, all these, you know, all this direct mail I get, all the coupons I have to cut out and bring to the grocery store and so on. Those are also kind of just tickets, could I just have them on my phone and I can just show the phone in the store and then it's like a ticket, it's like a coupon, like a ticket. I just show it and then I get my rebate. Or some of us may have a prescription for our doctor telling us to eat medicine every day or something, and then we run out of medicine and we need to find that prescription and go to the drugstore and get new medicine. Well, that's just a ticket. Can I just have that on a smartphone and I just show that and I don't need to find the prescription? So the idea here that from all these industries, these are different services, but for me as a consumer, it's one and the same thing. It's one and the same thing. It's just a ticket on the phone. I just show it and then it works. So for me as a consumer, I'm looking across all these industries and saying, if I can do it in one industry, why can I do it here? Why can I not do it here? I'm taking this one experience and I'm moving it across industries. That's how this change is going to happen. Okay. But if that's going to happen everywhere, how are we going to look at this? What sectors of society should we even look at? Where should we start digging to understand what's happening to us? Well, I think there are many answers to that question, but this is our approach. So what we've done is that we went to 27 major cities in the world, and we asked people, what is the most satisfactory thing with life in your city? What are you really satisfied with in your city? Do you know what they answered? We went there, we asked them 30 different things. We asked about the satisfaction, if you can, it's easy to get a job, what's the garbage collection like, the water quality, all kinds of things. What is the number one thing that people in big cities say that they are satisfied with? Yes?
Outing activities, I think.
Outing activities.
Eating, dining.
Eating and dining. Very good, very good. You live in a big city, I think,
yeah.
right? Yeah, you know a lot about city life. I can hear that. Anyone else? Anyone else knows what drives satisfaction with city life? Yeah? Any idea? Anyone here?
Shopping.
Shopping. Here we go. I think, we spent 2 years. We went to 27 major cities. Do you know what that costs? And it was restaurants was actually number 2. Thank you for that one. And shopping was actually number 1. I mean, don't trust people from Ericsson. They put a lot of money on things we already know. I mean, come on. The third most interesting area for people where the satisfaction was leisure facilities. So fitness centers, movie theaters, concert halls, and so on. All of these are available in abundance in big cities. So people really like that. So what we did then is we asked ourselves, okay, what kind of a role does the smartphone play here? What kind of a role do services on smartphones play here? And for each of these areas, we then selected 3 future-oriented concepts. And then we asked people, are you interested in these concepts? If they were available, would you be using them? How often would you be using them? And by the way, when do you think they will be generally available in your city? So these were things we asked about these services. And I will take you through these top 3 areas of satisfaction very quickly. Let's start with shopping. Now, if you think about shopping, the most important thing to ask about shopping is, of course, what kind of shopping are we talking about here? So we asked 12 different categories. Would you like to use these futuristic kind of services we asked? So we asked about same-day delivery, we asked about a mobile goods navigation service where you can find if something is in stock in some other store, and we asked about a shopping recommender where you can get help in your selection. And basically what people are saying, well, there's an overall big interest for these kinds of things, but primarily for food and beverages. That was the number 1 thing. And the second most interesting area was clothing and shoes. But you can see there's a fairly high interest across all kinds of different shopping categories that we asked about. Now, if we look a little bit at the same-day delivery service, so that service, it works on any device, on your smartphone, on your PC, tablet, whatever kind of device you have. And it works then, of course, online, but also when you're in the store. So you can get same-day delivery of everything. The more of these smartphones and stuff devices we have, of course, this idea of I want it now, it's not going to go away. It's going to be even stronger. So I want it now, or probably sooner, is kind of the message we get here. If we look into restaurants, as you kindly pointed out, it's an area of big satisfaction. We realized that there's a big difference. We went to 5 cities and did this in-depth research. We went to Sao Paulo, we went to Beijing, we went to Tokyo, we went to London and New York. There's a big difference between the cities and how much are people saying they're going to use these type of services. So we asked about Mobile reservations, where you can get your table even though you're not in the store. We asked about the social restaurant guide, where you kind of can find out with your friends where to go and what to eat and so on. And most interestingly, a restaurant ingredient checker that tells you when you're in the restaurant, what's really in my food, where did it come from, are there any ingredients I'm allergic to, and so on and so forth. This was for all of the cities the service that people would say that would use most often. So in Sao Paulo, people were saying 40% of all the people are saying that we use it every day. This service I would be using every day. Whereas in Tokyo, obviously food is very safe here, so it was much lower actually in Tokyo. 10% of people saying they would use this service anyway, any day. And then, of course, this is the service here then. Details of food being served would be a very popular service. Actually, the growth is incredible. So some people said, well, there's something similar to this available already now. Not many said that, but the prediction from consumers was that within 3 years, this service would grow in availability by 8 times. This is the expectation for people. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying this was the expectation of people. 8 times. That's pretty much. So it would be available to about 50% or even close to 60% of people out there by 2016. Now the last area of satisfaction was leisure facilities then. And of course one interesting discussion when you think about how is the future going to evolve is who will actually deliver these services. Well, it turns out that in this study we've done, we see that it won't be delivered only by one player. There will be a lot of players involved in doing lots of different things here, and that's a very interesting scenario when you start thinking about it. So even consumers are expecting differences here. We asked about a service we call a digital real-time trainer or assistant. So it's like if you're playing golf and you can have an app that actually tells you in real time how to improve your swing. I don't know anyone playing golf here. I played golf all summer. I have really hurt my shoulder here, so I really need actually that kind of a service, I suppose. But this was 40% of all the respondents who were at all interested in this type of service said that it would be delivered by the facility owners themselves. So if you go down to training facility, they would have this kind of service for you. But 40% were saying that no, it would be delivered by internet companies actually. But there was also a big overlap there. So actually there would probably be some kind of joint situation happening there. The most advanced futuristic service we asked about here was a virtual play connector. So you think you go down to a bowling hall and you play bowling, but you're actually connecting to another virtual play connector in another facility somewhere where your friend is playing in another city maybe, and you're playing bowling together physically, but you're in 2 different places. This was kind of a new facility in its own right probably, and people are saying, well, 49% were saying this is something that internet companies probably will deliver. On the other hand, having reservations for tickets related to these kinds of facilities and so on, people were more thinking that the facility owners themselves should probably deliver. So if we look into that particular one, 79% think that this kind of a mobile ticket reservation service will be available within 3 years. And it would then give you entertainment tickets, cinema, sports, all these kinds of things. And pretty easy services if you think about it. And a lot of people say, well, some of this is already available, but having it all come together is again applying one good idea, one kind of ticket reservation system across all of these leisure-related industries. From the consumer perspective, it's all the same service, but of course, you know, it has to be put together from the perspective of the deliverer as well. Those were areas that we looked into where there's high satisfaction with city life, and some of the concepts that we looked into. You can dig deeper into this. If you read the brochure, there's a lot more information around what the services were that we looked at and how they played out in different perspectives. But not everything is really all that happy. I mean, I'm not satisfied with everything in city life. Are you? So of course, you know, if you ask about 30 different things, you realize there's a lot of areas where people are really dissatisfied. So let's see if you can help us lose that investment as well and find out what were the areas that people were really dissatisfied. Now I'm going back to, even though we did the deep dive here only on 5 cities, if you look at the whole picture, 27 cities, you know, there's a big sort of correlation among what people really thought is a driver of dissatisfaction of city life. Any ideas here? What's the worst thing with city life? Traffic jam. Thank you. Sorry? Public transport. Anything else? Anything else? Traffic jams and public transport. No Wi-Fi connection. No Wi-Fi connection. That's a good one. Yeah, I agree. Is that, and that's much better on the countryside, of course. I agree with you also. No? Anything else? Trash. Trash. Sorry? Health services. See, I think we need to stop working in Consumer Lab. I mean, we're just wasting all of our money here. I mean, some of you are so spot on with this, we shouldn't be doing this type of research. Yes, childcare, elderly care. That was actually one of the areas where people had shown high dissatisfaction. And then actually, on the second worst level, it was communication, but not over Wi-Fi actually, but with authorities, with the city authorities. I need to have more information on what's happening, what's going on. Maybe even about the traffic jam, because the driver of dissatisfaction with city life is traffic. Traffic, that's the big one. So again here, then we decided we need to look into how can ICT play a role here, because we've seen in qualitative research that people actually put expectations on some of these things being solved by different services. So we developed 3 concept services for each of these areas. And again, we looked into these 5 cities then. We looked into Sao Paulo, Beijing, Tokyo, London, and New York. And I should also say that these 5 cities, that we kind of divided them in 2 groups, because when we looked at interest levels for these, we realized that Sao Paulo and Beijing, very high levels across the board of interest for all these kinds of services. Very high levels of aspiration and interest in these kinds of services. Whereas London, New York, and Tokyo have slightly lower levels of interest. Overall, they have more sort of commonality there. But the overall patterns are the same. So for example, the personal navigator to help you solve traffic was the most popular service in this area of dissatisfaction, to help me alleviate some of the frustration and the dissatisfaction I have with this. Also, of course, if you think about it, London, Tokyo, and New York, those are cities where smartphones are basically postpaid. Whereas actually in Sao Paulo and Beijing, there's a lot of prepaid smartphones. So it also puts a perspective on how these different cities will evolve, of course, in the future. But again, let's look into some of the highlights from these 3 areas as well then. So if you start with the care perspective, thank you for that. I lost a 1 million budget right there, But anyway, look into this one. Another important dimension, of course, when you're talking about these kinds of service concepts is who. It's not, just levels of interest and what and so on, but who would actually be using them. And we realized that the highest levels of interest for care-related services were young parents and young couples, and many of them with children then, of course. So they were interested in this. They have both children and possibly also elderly parents who are now needing help because they are getting so old, so they get into the care system as well. So for the 3 services that we looked into, they said that, to a certain degree these services may be available. So cutting edge people thought that I can find these already. So 10% to 15% of the respondents said that these types of services are already available where you're using ICT to help your care situation. But again, in 2016, only 3 years from now, people were saying, 64 to 68% of these people were saying it will be generally available. This will be mass market. Everyone will be using this. So I'll show you one highlight from that one related to the discussion about communities that we're trying to have here today. We asked about an online near care system. So if you think that you have 3 toddlers at home and they actually go to different kindergartens and childcare, and maybe one is in preschool or something. And then you also have your elderly mother who is actually now in an old person's home or hospitalized or something. And you need to sort of pick up, and you need to deliver your children in the morning, you need to pick them up, and you need to go and visit your mother and all of these things. How about if all of these care institutions were actually a community in their own right? And they would provide a service to you that actually helps you coordinate the pickup times and the visiting hours and everything. So you don't need to figure all that out yourself and change your work life, but actually these institutions, they figure it out how it will work for you and then provide that service to you. So 63% said that they would use such a system on a weekly basis if it was available. And not actually only the people who had children, but all over across the board, and 63% thought this would be something that they would use on a weekly basis. Okay, so moving into communication with city authorities. A lot of people then think that currently the communication that and the sort of the information that is available from city authorities is fundamentally lacking, actually. So a lot of people are dissatisfied. They think the current communication level is really bad. But there are also a few people who think that city authorities are pretty good at communicating the information about how I fill in the tax forms and whatever it is they are doing, you know. But when we asked about services in this area, and all of these services, they're basically in different ways trying to improve the communication using ICT services, we realized that it's the people who think the current situation is really bad or really good. So those are the people who really were interested in having online city services of different sorts. Here again, I'll give you one highlight. And this is a service that we then tested called a contextual mobile city service. It will give you location-based information, but depending on where you are in a city. Not a tourist kind of thing, but you still need to know things when you're in a different part of the cities. Is this, you know, if I'm one block away from this city building, is it open or not? You know, could I check that out or whatever? But it would also give you then emergency positioning. So if you were in sudden need of an ambulance or an ambulance, then you could send that off and it would quicker than be able to come to the emergency place. And here again, some of these people said some of this is available, but they also expected this type of service area to grow very quickly. So on the average, 6-time increase in availability within only 3 years. And that would be then a mass market service going close to 60% basically availability in these 5 cities that we looked into. Okay, and then we come to the sort of the worst area of them all then, I suppose, traffic. I have a friend here who's laughing very much. You are from Honda, so I see why you're laughing about this area. But anyway, so how can different kinds of services alleviate this issue? Well, actually, personal navigator that helps you. I'll talk a little bit more about that one as well. But also self-driving parking cars that actually, so cars can actually help us with this, and they will then be, of course, ICT enabled somehow. And finally, if there would be a scheduler that doesn't focus on my time, you know, if you have your Outlook calendar, it also always goes from 9 in the morning to 5 p.m. or whatever, and then everyone fills up your calendar, you know. But they're not thinking about that I need to move between these places. Maybe it's all over the city or whatever. So how about if we had a scheduling system that focused on minimizing the need for travel rather than filling your hours through the day? It was also conceptually tested. And what we found out, I think the most interesting aspect of this is, of course, the more mobility you have in the city, the more you commute and travel throughout the day, the more interest you have in these services. So it goes from, for the most popular ones, from 40 to 60% or so. Much higher interest, of course, than if you move around a lot. And more than 2 hours of commuting is very common in some of these major cities. So the more you travel, the more you would like to have that. And if we look specifically into a personal navigator service, then it would provide, this is not a car navigation system that we're asking about. We're asking about something that would provide navigation for you when you walk, you know, or maybe if there's some other new, you know, vehicles coming out there, and cars and buses and what have you. And it would do that not only on the streets, it would do that indoor, maybe in shopping centers and all these kinds of areas. So if this type of a service would be available, 81% of the respondents in these 5 cities that we went out to said that they would use a personal navigator service every week. This was the highest sort of weekly based utilization degree of all the, totally then 18 concepts that we tested for both dissatisfaction areas of city life and satisfaction areas of city life. 81%. Pretty interesting. Of course, this type of service is not readily available. So a lot of things would have to happen in 3 years. And that is basically the key finding here then. People out there and I'm not talking about engineers, I'm talking about people, normal people on the streets. They expect, they have very high demand for a lot of new types of service. Maybe, technically speaking, not all of them are difficult to make, but you need to involve a lot of new players in actually making this happen. But people expect this, and of course if that would happen, city life would be totally changed within 3 years. And of course, all of these services then, if you go from maybe, available, some of the more advanced, you say, well, I can get this service. So maybe 5-10% of the people out there think these services are available in some form or another. To over 50% market availability. This would really have a big impact. So the expectation of getting these services soon is very big. For all of the services, we also saw that there was a lower limit of sort of how often would you use it on a daily basis, of at least 20%. So most of these services would actually also be something that you would use on a very, very regular basis. And if you're using something on a very regular basis, it will change the way you go about your everyday life. And if you change your way, if we, all of us, suddenly change the way we go about our regular life, well, in the end, that will really have a very, very big impact on city life overall. You can read more about this in the report. I hope you do. And there's a question from the audience here. Yes.